They stepped out that night, chasing a simple dream and leaving behind the gentle strum of a forgotten guitar. In the silence that followed, a family's heartbeat fractured, torn open by a question that refused to die. Then the sea rose up, and with a cruel, impossible mercy, offered back something that should have stayed buried. A single relic, soaked in salt and secrets, carrying every haunting note of what was lost. The clock above the faded floral curtains stutters past 9 p.m., its second hand ticking like a heartbeat against the hush of the living room. Faint summer air drifts in through a cracked window, carrying the scent of cut grass and cooling asphalt. Streetlights cast a pale glow that sneaks through the glass, painting trembling shadows across the couch. Jack sits on the sagging cushion, hands folded in his lap. Every so often, he rubs his thumbs together, as though trying to scrub away a tension that won't leave him. The guitar, leaning against the wall behind them, seems to watch in silence. Battered wood, strings dulled from so many songs, carrying every memory of their shared afternoons. Luciana hums softly beside him. She taps out a gentle rhythm on the sofa arm with her knuckles, repeating the beat they'd rehearsed all day. Her voice, calm and smooth, weaves through the stale air like a breeze. She glances at Jack, reading something quiet and complicated in his face. "Are you sure you want to go out tonight?" she asks, barely louder than a whisper. Jack's shoulders lift and fall in a slow sigh. His eyes flick toward the hallway, the doorway, then settle back on the guitar. He hesitates, then forces a small smile, one that feels as fragile as paper. "Yeah," he murmurs. "Yeah, let's go." Luciana rises, smoothing the wrinkles from her jeans, and walks to the corner of the room where her old canvas shoes sit tangled by the floor lamp. She kneels to untie a knot in the laces, fingers clumsy with nerves. The sound of the cotton threads tugging free is oddly loud in the silence. Jack stands, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, then wanders into the kitchen. He flicks on the light. Its hum joins the chorus of the night insects buzzing beyond the screen door. The refrigerator creaks as he opens it, grabs a half-finished bottle of soda, takes a sip, then grimaces at its flat taste. He pours the rest down the drain, rinsing the bottle as if every small habit still matters tonight. Luciana calls from the living room. "Ready?" Her voice tries to stay steady. Jack leans against the chipped Formica counter, staring at the peeling edge where he'd once carved his initials with a butter knife. Something in his chest tightens, a warning he doesn't know how to name. He wipes down the counter out of habit, setting the rag neatly in its place, then flicks the kitchen light off and steps back into the living room. Luciana stands by the door, keys jangling in her fist. The way the streetlight slants across her face makes her look older, braver somehow. Jack reaches for the keys, their metal cool and sharp against his palm, and his sister watches him, waiting for him to move. Upstairs, their mother shifts in her bed. Her voice floats down the staircase, muffled by exhaustion. "Don't stay out too late, okay?" Luciana answers with a quick, practiced reassurance. "We won't, Mom." They exchange a glance, unspoken understanding between them. A secret plan, or maybe just a wish, for something new. Something beyond this small living room and its stale air. Jack reaches for the guitar again, fingers tracing the scuffs in the wood. For a moment he considers bringing it, then shakes his head, leaving it propped against the wall, its strings humming faintly from the movement. Luciana tugs the front door open. A thin wind slides through the crack, carrying a hint of the ocean from somewhere far off. Night spills inside. Dark, wide, silent. They pause on the threshold. Jack's hand hovers above the light switch, then flicks it down. The soft pop as the bulb dies feels final, like the end of a verse. Together they step outside, shoes crunching against the gravel walkway. The street beyond their house looks washed out, almost unreal beneath the street lamps. Every parked car lined up like silent witnesses. A neighbor's dog barks once from behind a chain-link fence, then goes quiet. An engine idles far away, then fades. The world holds its breath, as though the night itself is waiting for their next move. Luciana pulls her hair into a ponytail, tying it twice to be sure. Jack checks his pockets, keys and coins rattling, each familiar sound grounding him. He looks up, studying the stars scattered above them, searching for something. A sign, a promise, an answer. They walk side by side along the cracked sidewalk. The houses all around them sleep peacefully. Window curtains drawn, families safe inside. The hush feels too deep, a hush that presses against their shoulders as they move through it. Luciana slips her arm through Jack's, leaning her head against him for a moment. He steadies his breath, matches her pace, refusing to rush. Past the bus stop, where they once waited for rides to school. Past the corner store with its flickering neon sign, where they bought candy on Saturday afternoons. Past everything they thought would always stay the same. Their footsteps echo through the night, fading with each block, swallowed by the city's endless pulse. Somewhere, far away, a siren wails, then dies. A night owl calls from a tree above them. They keep walking, the hush growing heavier, thicker, until it feels almost alive. Jack glances back once, as though he can still see the guitar waiting in its quiet corner, but the house is lost behind them, only a rectangle of light left shining through the curtains. Then they turn the final corner, and the dark takes them. Sunlight crept through the thin curtains, tracing lines across the empty couch. A day that should have started with laughter began instead with silence so dense it pressed on the walls. Their mother rose slowly from bed, the ache in her back reminding her of another night spent tossing and turning. She stepped into the hall, called out for Jack and Luciana. Her voice bounced down the stairs, unanswered. At first, she assumed they had left early, maybe for breakfast at that cafe they liked. She tried to believe that. Still, something felt wrong. She walked to the living room, took in the guitar leaning exactly where Jack had left it, as if waiting for its next song. The keys were gone from the hook by the door, but their jackets still hung on their pegs, limp and accusing. Her hands trembled. She picked up the phone, dialed her husband's work number. When he answered, she heard the worry crack through his voice even before she finished explaining. He left the construction site at once, boots still crusted with dried mud, and drove home gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Together, they checked every room. The basement was empty, except for Luciana's shoes, carelessly kicked off by the stairs. The attic, the back porch, even the neighbor's yard, nowhere held a sign of them. The parents paced the small house in circles. They opened and shut closet doors, yanked at drawers, searching for anything. A note, a message, a clue. Each discovery only twisted the knife deeper. 2 untouched plates in the sink. Luciana's favorite mug still stained with cold tea. Hours crawled by. Soon, they found themselves on the street, calling out Jack's name, then Luciana's, voices cracking, echoing across parked cars and sleeping houses. People peered from windows, curiosity turning to worry. By evening, the police arrived. A patrol car parked by the curb, lights flashing a cold blue. An officer, polite but distant, stepped inside, asked careful questions while writing in a thin notebook. Had there been arguments lately? Anyone angry with them? Any reason they might leave? Their mother shook her head until her neck hurt. Their father clenched his jaw, swallowing the panic clawing up his throat. Officers walked through the living room studying the guitar, the unwashed dishes, the faint scent of leftover pizza. Nothing felt out of place, but everything was wrong. Outside, a neighbor offered weak comfort, mumbling about kids who just needed to blow off steam. Another neighbor scolded softly that the world was dangerous. The sun fell away behind the houses, and still no sign. The living room lights stayed on long past midnight, burning like a vigil. Jack and Luciana's laughter, once so constant it seemed stitched into the walls, had vanished, leaving behind an emptiness that made the air hard to breathe. The search had only just begun. Days blurred into seasons. Flyers, once crisp and bright, sagged from telephone poles in the rain, corners curling under relentless sun. Each year, their parents replaced them with fresh copies, faces of Jack and Luciana smiling out to strangers who never answered back. Their father still woke early, pulling on the same work clothes, routine his only anchor. Before leaving for his shift, he paused at the hallway mirror, hoping he might see Jack standing behind him, teasing like old times. Their mother folded laundry in the living room, folding and refolding Luciana's shirts that hadn't been worn in years, pressing each one flat with trembling hands. Sometimes she placed them back in the dresser drawers, as if any moment her daughter might walk through the door, asking where they'd gone. Holidays arrived like wounds reopened. 2 chairs at the table, stubbornly kept empty, stood as monuments to their missing. Stockings hung year after year, never filled. The guitar gathered dust in its quiet corner, strings loosening, wood darkening. Its silence grew heavier with every sunrise. Friends visited less often, too weighed down by pity to stay long. Some whispered it was time to move on, but the family refused, haunted by possibilities they could never name. Years etched gray into their parents' hair. Smiles turned thin, stretched by grief. Hope twisted itself into something painful, yet impossible to surrender. And so time crawled forward, dragging their broken hearts along with it, while the mystery of Jack and Luciana settled over the house like a permanent shadow, refusing to leave. Gray dawn rolled across an unsettled ocean, wind whipping salt spray against the deck of a rust-streaked trawler. The fishermen moved with practiced rhythm, boots slipping on damp steel, voices gruff and tired from another night's labor. One crewman, eyes stinging from too little sleep, pulled at the massive net that rose dripping from the waves. Seaweed clung to the ropes. Tangled plastic bottles bobbed like ghosts. And something else, something heavy, unrecognizable, swayed in the mesh. He frowned, signaled the winch to hold. Slowly, the rest of the crew leaned closer, curious, drawn to the strange shape caught among the debris. It emerged, brown and battered, water streaming from every surface. An old guitar, warped beyond repair, its strings curled like dying worms. Cracks lined its body like veins, yet something familiar, something heartbreakingly human, seemed to cling to it. The men exchanged a look that said they felt a chill, even in the warmth of sunrise. Carefully, the crewmen turned the instrument over, revealing faint scorched letters on its back. Jack plus Luciana, a name scrawled in a moment of love, now drifting through oceans, for who knew how long. Nobody spoke. Even the seagulls seemed to fall silent as the fisherman lifted the guitar from the net, laying it gently on a crate as if afraid to break it further. Word spread quickly. Authorities arrived at the dock, flashing badges, asking 1,000 questions no one could answer. The guitar was carried, wrapped like a relic, to the police station in Los Angeles City. A hush followed it through every hallway. Officers stood still, staring, as though the instrument itself might speak. When Jack and Luciana's parents were called, their mother nearly collapsed against the kitchen table. She clutched the phone so tightly her knuckles blanched, barely able to draw breath between the officers' measured words. That same afternoon, they stood in the station, staring down at the water-stained guitar, resting on a sterile evidence table. Her hands reached, then stopped, then reached again, hovering above the warped wood. Each groove, each scratch, sang of all the afternoons when their children had played, filling the house with music. The silent guitar screamed louder than any siren, bringing back every memory like a knife to the heart. Its presence left more questions than answers, questions that twisted deep and refused to let go. The quiet in the station seemed to throb, each tick of the wall clock a cruel reminder of time lost. Jack and Luciana's parents stood frozen, gazing at the guitar laid out on the evidence table, as though it might still carry their children's voices. Their mother finally reached out, fingers brushing the warped wood. Splinters bit her skin, but she barely flinched, unwilling to let go of this final fragment of her children's world. She traced the faded letters: Jack plus Luciana. With trembling fingertips, remembering the day they burned those names together in the backyard, the two of them giggling over their forever plans. Their father hovered behind her, shoulders hunched, eyes hollow, fighting the urge to snatch the guitar away and cradle it to his chest. He tried to picture Jack's hands strumming chords, Luciana's voice weaving through the notes, and felt something in his chest crack wide open. Detectives shifted nearby, uncomfortable in the thick grief that hung around the room. They asked questions in low tones, clipped and official. But the parents struggled to hear them, ears ringing with old melodies, memories layered over memories until they blurred like a dream. They lifted the guitar together, careful as if it were made of glass, afraid it might crumble. Salt water dripped from its warped body, soaking the edge of the table. The mother's tears fell, mingling with that salt, indistinguishable from the sea's own grief. Outside, summer burned bright and careless. Children played in the street, their laughter cutting sharp against the family's ragged silence. The parents carried the guitar home, the familiar weight, both a comfort and a curse. Once through the doorway, they placed it back in its corner, where it had waited 15 endless years. The house seemed to inhale around it, as if recognizing a lost piece of itself. Their mother sat on the floor, eyes fixed on the battered instrument, her breathing shallow, words trapped in her throat. Hope remained, twisted, painful, impossible to kill. Somewhere, somehow, the ocean had given back a piece of their children. But what became of Jack and Luciana still drifted in the dark, hidden in tides, waiting to be found.